When I was younger, now you got to remember, when I was younger, this is late 80s sort of era, maybe early 90s. I desperately would like a pair of Velcro sneakers. Actually, no, that's not late 80s when I wanted that. That was more like late 70s when I wanted the Velcro sneakers. Let's be real with my age. Have I got the pictures up on the screen? There they go. I wanted a pair of Velcro sneakers. Not because I couldn't tie up my shoelaces, I could. I was just lazy and I thought they were just brilliant. All you'd have to do is rip them over and your shoes are done. How good is that? And they were big. I said in the early 90s. I think I should have probably said cool in the early 80s. They're not cool anymore, are they? No. They're making a comeback. Excellent. So it's cool in the kindies. Yep. All right. Do you know about the history of Velcro? I want to talk a bit about Velcro tonight. Do you know the history of Velcro, how it came about? There was a bloke called George de Mestral. Where am I up to? There. Oh, you moved on, did you? Oh, I just mucked it up, don't worry. A Swiss engineer called George de Mestral who noticed burdock burrs attaching themselves to himself and his dog when walking in the bush one time. Burdock burrs are interesting, and here's a picture of a burdock burr on the screen. And if you look closely at it, like I've got my little magnifying glass there, you can see that the tips of the burrs are actually hooks. That's why they attach themselves so well to clothing, because they have the little hooks. And George was very interested in how they were attaching themselves and started to do a whole bunch of research on it and ended up inventing Velcro. And Velcro is an amazing thing that can have great strength from not much. And so the way that Velcro works is that you can stick things together and hold them there, like shoes or clothing, or they use them on boats apparently to hold down covers. And well, you've already seen my next picture here. One time on, we got a fly wall into the youth groups, and you can stick whole peoples to Velcro and they don't come off, except when they're a bit bigger like me. And yeah, but it's amazing how much strength some Velcro can be. So you know how it works, don't you? Velcro has two parts. One of them is this hard plasticky part of it, which has got lots of little hooks, and then the softer part of it has got lots of little loops. And so when you press them together, the hooks get caught up in the loops, and they can provide significant strength until you pull them apart. And it actually is a little bit of an effort to pull Velcro apart. And so enormous strength comes out of something which is not, when it's connected, enormous strength. The irony is that by themselves, these two strips are not sticky at all. Sorry, I shouldn't rip that in front of the microphone, should I? So they're not sticky at all. They can't hold any weight just by themselves, but when they're together, there is enormous strength that comes from the Velcro. Can you see where I'm going with this? It's pretty obvious, isn't it? Yes, very good. I want to talk about the need for the church to be like Velcro, because strength comes from connection. And when we are connected to each other, there is strength. That is the whole point of my sermon for tonight. I'll give you a little bit more than that. But that is it. But the Bible is full of this idea that strength or oneness is something that God wants from us. So here's a few different Bible verses. Psalm 133 verse 1, how good and pleasant it is when God's people live together in unity. Galatians 3:28, there is neither Jew nor Gentile, neither slave nor free, neither male nor female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. Or Philippians 2, make my joy complete by being like-minded, having the same love, being one in the Spirit and in mind. Or my favourite, which I was looking up, Ephesians chapter 4 verse 3 to 6, which says, make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace, because there is one body and one Spirit, just as you were called to one hope when you were called, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father over all, who is over all, through all, and in all. Can you see the point Paul is trying to make? That there is strength when we are connected. There is strength when we're connected. So God has joined us together because he wants us to have the benefits and the blessings of that connection. There is strength that comes through connection. We coping all right with this? I could leave the sermon just there, couldn't I? Because that's pretty good just by itself. Except for the reality that sometimes we're not always connected. Sometimes we feel like that there is a tearing within our lives, within the church, within our faith, a tearing away from the things that make us feel connected, and we begin to feel slightly disconnected. We feel like that there's a little bit of ripping apart that seems to be happening. And that's a little bit of the other side of this that I want to try and explore a bit tonight. So I've got a question for you. We haven't done questions in Night Church for a long time, have we? But here is the question that I have for you, and for the people who are watching online, we can have a discussion in the comment section on the Facebook group. For the people in the church, I'm actually going to get you to turn to one or two people around you, or three or four people around you, depending what you want to do, and see how you can go with these questions. See, Velcro is strong until, but it loses strength when it begins to be torn apart. What are some of the things in life, or in faith, or in the church that can tear apart connections? Now, I've just got to be clear here. I don't want you to be personal. Like, I don't want people to say, that person is the one who tears us apart. I'm not talking about a person here. I'm talking about what things that might bring that sense of tearing, that sense of disconnection, so to speak. Do you understand the question? What things in either life or faith or the church can tear apart connections? Have a conversation with each other. I will try and have some conversations with the people online, and we'll come back in 3 or 4 minutes. You might have to move around the church a little bit because we are very spread out in the church at the moment. Find 2 or 3 other people, 3 or 4 other people to have a conversation with, and have a conversation. What are the things that can tear us apart? I nearly got Marty to play dum 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 dum. Sorry. Chat with each other. For those people online, I'm going to chat with you online. All right. Let's wind up the conversation. If somebody from a group wants to come up the front here, while you're doing that, in the conversation online, they talked about things like when trust is broken, when people hurt one another, when somebody damages a relationship or disagrees in an unproductive way. They also sort of said differences in interpretation of the Bible can bring that sense of tearing apart in the life of the church. I'm going to hand over to anybody who wants to jump up here so that the people online can hear you.
Our group talked about, apathy and sort of not engaging fruitfully and communicating properly, because that can really lead to sort of disjointedness and not understanding where each other are coming from, and that sort of leads to...
Our group talked about ethical issues when Christians come up on completely different sides of an ethical argument where their faith is dictating to opposing points of view. I personally find that really hard if someone's on the opposite side of an ethical issue to me, and I find it difficult to defend where they're coming from or to see having something in common. One of the examples was also with the creation of this church. I'm probably totally misquoting what you said, but one was a former Presbyterian church, one was a former Methodist church, and they had all kinds of issues merging together, but yeah.
Thanks, Susie. She says it's a bit like everything that's been shared. It's not easy, is it? It would have been easier if I finished the sermon at we all need to be connected because there's strength in connection. But once we start talking about the tearing, it suddenly gets a lot harder, this conversation. Now, I want to suggest 4 answers that I thought of or reflected of during the week when I was pondering this. These are, Phil's list of things that can tear us apart. I nearly went down the road of trying them to all start with the letter D, but in the end I gave up. But I'm going to give us 4 things that I think are relevant for right now of things that can tear us apart. The first one, COVID-19. I nearly called it a disease, but I thought I was starting to get a bit silly. But we have literally been torn apart by this as people, as communities, and as a church. Not in a sense of completely torn apart, but I can honestly say as a pastor that I've felt a slight dislocation, disconnection. Even though we've tried really hard to continue good relationships all through these last 7 months, there still is a sense that it hasn't quite been the same. And people are feeling that. They're just sort of going, I know my church family's here for me and they love me and all that sort of stuff. But not sitting around the dinner table after night church each week, I think is causing a little bit of that sense of, disconnection. But it also happens in other things in life, people who are going to uni, how well are you getting on with the people you're going through uni with at the moment? It's weird, isn't it? You're just not seeing them enough. You're not spending time hanging around the cafeteria and doing stuff like that. I think distance can be one. I was feeling that a few weeks ago when some of my really close friends were going through some difficult times and there was distance involved. Now, that didn't mean that I wasn't good friends with them. I am. But the distance just made it feel like we were slightly disconnected a little. And that can happen, that can be geographically distant, but even like what Rachel was just talking about, that sense of we might be distant in our opinions, and that the very fact that there is that separation can cause that sense of not being quite connected. I want to throw in death. I know it's not something we normally talk about at night church because we're all young and invincible. Well, not all of us are young. We are still invincible though, aren't we? Yes. But we in our traditional congregation have been having a few really, really significant deaths over the last 2 or 3 months. And we're feeling it. We're feeling it. You sort of just want to go, I know we're going to have an eternal reunion at some point, but gee, at this moment, I did this in the service this morning, and then you could almost feel people go, that's what death of a loved one is a bit like. Today's an unusual day. The 2 services that are doubling up with the same sermon are our traditional and night church. I don't think I've ever done that before. But it seemed both relevant to both of us. And so we talked a little bit about how death can be something that can tear us apart. Even if it is only for a short, for a period of time, it still has that sense. And the one that I want to pick up on, which is the one that's out of our Bible reading for today, is disagreements. And I think it came up in every group that I could sort of hear, and it certainly came up in the group that was online. That sense of, when we don't agree with something, it can cause that sense of, how do we have that connection when we're not connecting on this issue? And so let's just unpack the Bible reading a bit. Did you like that one from Ezekiel? Classic Old Testament prophet stuff, isn't it? Get 2 sticks and write their names on it. It's classic Old Testament prophets. But let me explain what it's about. You see, Israel had 12 tribes, 12 groups of people that were basically put into tribes based upon the 12 brothers of Jacob or Israel. And just like a good family, these 12 tribes didn't always get on. There were disagreements, there was arguments, and some of them were small and some of them were large. And a big one came after the three big kings. Does anybody know, trivial question number one, the first three kings of Israel? Saul, David, Solomon. What's the fourth one? You see, this is the problem. They had a big disagreement over who was going to be the fourth king of Israel. When Solomon died, some of the people were suggesting one person and some of the people were suggesting another person, these two people. And they could not agree. And eventually the top half of Israel, the sort of like 10 tribes or 9.5 tribes, depending how you work it all out, all wanted a particular king, and the southern part of the kingdom said, no, we want this king, and they literally split in two, and there was then two kingdoms because they couldn't agree over who was going to be the next king of Israel. That's only the fourth king of Israel. It didn't last long, did it? So, and they stayed separated for a long time. We're talking, a number of 100 years, because they stayed separated until ultimately they got defeated in war and were taken away in exile, if you remember the song, by the rivers of Babylon. And that is the situation that Ezekiel is writing into. These two people, these 10, 12 tribes who were supposed to be one nation and have strength in that, were separated and then defeated. And so Ezekiel comes along with a message from God basically going, why? Why are you fighting with each other? Don't you understand that there is strength in connection? And he gives this really beautiful image. God, through Ezekiel, gives this beautiful image. Take two sticks and write these two names on it. Judah. Now, Judah is the main dominating tribe of the southern kingdom. And Ephraim, or Joseph. Ephraim is the main dominating tribe of the northern kingdom. So he's basically saying, take the two people who are disagreeing, or the two main kingdoms that have split, write their names on a stick, and then hold them up as one. Now, we're not quite sure what that means. Did Ezekiel magically make two sticks become one in his hand? Or did he just hold it in such a way that it looked like it was one stick? Or there are some translations that actually said he bound it with a piece of twine to make it one, because that's how else would you join two sticks together? It doesn't really matter how he does it. The imagery is good, isn't it? To saying here are two things that are separated, but when we join them as one, there is more strength. I could do the same thing here with my piece of Velcro. In two parts, there's nothing. No strength here at all, but when we join them together, there is strength in connection. There is strength in connection. And that was, God speaking to the tribe of Israel saying, I need you to work this out. I need you to work out your differences and work out how you can live together. Sure, you're not always going to agree on stuff, but how do you actually live life together in a way that gives you strength rather than weakness? And that's how you got defeated. I don't know, maybe this is why Jesus said in one of the parables, I think it was Matthew chapter 5, when he talks about if you are going to present a gift at the altar, he said, and you realise that you are not, connected, or you're out of relationship with a brother or sister, then leave the altar there and go and find that brother or sister and make reconciliation, then come back and present your gift to God. As Jesus is saying, it's actually really important to work through this stuff. More important than presenting gifts to God. Work out your disunity or the dislocation or the disconnection, because there's strength that comes from being together. I almost wanted to do a second time of questioning. I'm not sure if it's an easy lot of questions, but when I was pondering this, I started to wonder, who are the Ezekiels in our torn world? If we look around our world and our life at the moment, we can see this tearing happening. Who are the Ezekiels who are standing up and saying to the world, you know what? We are crazy being divided. We've got to work this out, because together is the only way that we have strength. I was thinking of the environmental issue. This whole two-sided idea, either you believe the scientists or you don't, and whatever side you're on, that's fine. There's no strength in that. We're not getting things done. How do we actually work through this together to find a sense of unity so that we can be addressing issues at hand? Can you see that point? Who are the Ezekiels in the church who are standing up and saying we need to work through these feelings of disconnection, because it's with the feeling of unity that we will have the most strength and be able to keep the momentum for what God is doing in this place? These are tough questions, aren't they? But I think they're real questions that we need to work through. But what can we do about it? What can we do to bring more connection within our church? What can we do to bring more connection with our local communities? Because I tell you what, if you think we're slightly torn apart in the church at the moment, have a look at our local communities at the moment. They are really struggling to find any sort of connection at the moment. What can we do to help, even if it's just a little bit of rejoining? It makes it stronger. The more joins there are in a piece of Velcro, the stronger it is. I think this is a decent message for this time. And I'll openly admit I don't have all the answers, but I want us to genuinely try to work through, well, where are we feeling a bit dislocated, disconnected? Maybe even where are the disagreements? How do we work through them to try and find good connections? Because that is where the strength is. And even more than strength, did you see the ending of the Bible passage? Did you see how it changed about halfway through? Into this beautiful series of statements by God through Ezekiel, all about the blessings that come when we find unity, strength in unity. There's a whole series of blessings. There are things like that we'll have one king to rule over us, that God says that we'll have one shepherd who will care for us. There will be care for us and guide us, that God will make an everlasting covenant of peace with us, and that God will make his dwelling place with us and establish his sanctuary with us forever. Just an amazing set of promises sitting at the end of this passage. It's almost God saying, when you discover that there's strength in unity, there's a whole lot of other stuff that you will also be blessed with. This is what I'm offering to you. I'm offering this to you. Work this out. Become this unified group together and you will be blessed. So wherever you're hearing this message, whether you're in the building or whether you're watching it online, or whether you're going to be watching it later on, whether we are locally, whether we are scattered around the state or the country or even the world, we are living in a year that feels like we've been torn apart. How do we continue to find ways that we can do this, that we can be one? After all, this is what Jesus wanted for us, this sense of oneness. In John chapter 17, 22 and 23, Jesus said this. He was praying to God the Father. I know it gets a bit confusing when we're talking about Trinitarian theology here, but Jesus is praying to God the Father, and he says, may they be one, talking to the disciples or the church. May they be one, as we are one, I in them and you in me, so that they may be brought to complete unity. That was Jesus' prayer for us. May that be true in our lives and in our church today.